Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we have a better show for you this week. The Ducks ended up, ending their losing streak. They had a couple up and down games, kind of a roller coaster week. They played 4 contests. They ended up winning 2 and losing 2. So we'll go over all those games, plus some news around the league. There may be a coach that's available, and there's a lot of energy around what's going on with Chicago and Coach Quenneville, so we'll get to that. Of course, some fan questions as well, and some other fun topics, including Ducks and the love of hockey. So we'll get to all those throughout this show. So I guess let's just start with the week. Eddie, the Ducks, they played Columbus. They ended up, finally ending this losing streak. Another game where we saw the Ducks get a lead. We thought they were going to win a regulation. They were up 2-1. They ended up giving up a goal late in the third period, but they ended up pulling this one out, Eddie. The Ducks, behind Fowler's hat trick, pulled off the 3-2 win in overtime and ended the losing streak, finally.
Yeah, it wasn't the Ducks. I think it was Cam and the goalie that ended the losing streak. Obviously, goaltending is not the issue this season, but Cam decided, he wanted to step up his game, and enough is enough. And he wanted to heat his game. He had some puck luck. The first and last goal he scored it seemed a little lucky, but he was in the right place at the right time because he got there himself, and he wanted to be that factor. I was always told that the best players in hockey, whether you play in a rookie league, a beer league, a rec league, the NHL, or whatever higher league you play in, the best players always want to be on the ice or the rink when the game matters the most. And Cam wanted to, and it showed. And I'm so glad he got the hat trick. And the only problem I had with that game was I'm bringing a hat to every game now, and I was planning to go to that game, but I was playing beer league. So it sucks that I wasn't there because I really wanted to throw a hat, which I usually sit in the 400, so it's not going to get to the ice, but I just wanted to throw a hat just to be part of that crowd that threw hats.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're feeling. I've had that a few times at games too, where I've had my hat and I'm wearing it, and then a hat trick happens, and I'm there and I toss it, and then someone down the lower section tosses it, and then it's all good. But then there's other games where I don't wear one and it happens, and I'm like, damn it. So it's almost like you want to have one with you. But yeah, I agree with you as far as this game. Overall, the Ducks, they did outshoot the Blue Jackets, which we talked about in the last show. The Ducks haven't done that much this season. But Fowler was the one that got all the goals, got basically the Ducks the offense. And like you said, Gibson, again, played a good game. Getzlaf was not in this game. He was out with an upper body injury. But, it wasn't the best performance, but thank God they finally, ended the losing streak. In the middle of the game, there was a little bit of a scare there. The Blue Jackets did have a goal that was waved off because of a penalty that was called. So the Ducks got a break there a little bit, but it was the penalty that did cause Columbus to get that goal. So it was the right call. But anyways, overall, the Ducks, like we said, didn't play their best game, but played enough to win. They were 0 for 5 on the power play, which wasn't great, but they did also stop Columbus. They were 0 for 6 on the power play. So, like we said, we felt a little bit better in the beginning of the week. We didn't tie the all-time, 8-game losing streak set in 96 and 2011. So, you were hoping, okay, the Ducks at least turned it around a little bit, and, we'd see what would happen later in the week. They then had to go to L.A. and play the Kings. And, well, the Kings had been struggling. Of course, they fired their coach. We talked about that before. Jonathan Quick is out for a long time. So they've got Campbell in net. So you're thinking, okay, the Ducks beat Columbus. They go to LA. Even Getzlaf's back in this game. You're thinking good things. And yeah, not so much. The Ducks in this game, they give up 2 goals in the first period, 1 on the power play to Dustin Brown. They get down 2-0, and basically the Kings cruise after that. Kovalchuk gets a goal. It's 3-0 in the second. The Ducks get 1 back, by Kessler. But this game, it wasn't really a good performance. They did outshoot the Kings, so they've finally not given up so many shots, but they're 0 for 4 on the power play, and nothing just really went right in this game, Eddie. Once the Ducks got down early in the first period, it just seemed like they just couldn't quite, capitalize and get, going against this depleted Kings team, really.
Oh yeah, they let a player like Kyle Clifford, no disrespect to him, they let him walk right in like he's a McDavid superstar over there and score an easy goal. Like, come on, guys. I didn't see any will for the Ducks. I didn't see any fight in them. If the Ducks would have won this game 4-1, like the Kings did, I'd still be disappointed and I'd be disgusted by the game I saw. There just wasn't any fight in them. There wasn't, it's a freeway face-off, a freeway series, and they weren't finishing checks. They weren't hitting. It just, they would skate hard to the guy, and then boom, they would stop and give the Kings player that opportunity to make a good pass. I mean, you guys don't like this team. They don't like you. Put the hitting up. Put the fights up. This game was, I want to say, pathetic, and it was disgusting. I had more fights in a beer league game on Wednesday, and more hits than the Ducks did and Kings, and it's just, that's not the way to play the game. Like, this game was hard hitting, a fast physical game. I'm not saying go take cheap shots at all. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying play the game how it's supposed to be. Like, the integrity game is the most important thing, and the Ducks didn't bring it. I don't know what's going on with this Ducks team and why they're not, engaging in that physicality like they should be. But I mean, this was kind of boring. I mean, they played in Staples. I felt like I was watching the Lakers and some like mediocre team play basketball.
Yeah, this game, this was one that you and I talked about on the last show. And we said, hey, if the Ducks are going to try to get some momentum, if they're going to get some firepower, they're going to get more physical. This was a game that we marked on the calendar for this week. And you're right. But you're right. It didn't come out this game. This game was very vanilla, like you were talking about. I mean, it was somewhat boring at certain times. Obviously, the Ducks got down, 2-0 right away, which didn't help. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of fight in this team. I mean, granted, they still didn't have Manson in this game. They actually got him back in the next game against Calgary. But, I mean, you can't rely on Manson to go around hitting everybody all the time. And that's what I'm noticing with this team is there's not a real, a lot of hitting going on. I mean, I did see Eves pick it up this week, especially in these last couple games. So did Getzlaf. But overall, not a lot of physicality in this game. I didn't really see a lot of animosity in this game, which I was kind of surprised. I didn't see a lot of that. It just seems like every time the Ducks and the Kings play, there's always this extra enthusiasm. There's this extra jump in their skates. And like you talked about, I really didn't see it in this game. And it seems like, too, this season when the Ducks get behind, Eddie, if it's one goal, it's one thing. But once they get behind by 2 or more, I don't know how to explain it. But, I mean, they just seem really deflated.
Oh yeah, they just give up. On one of my beer league teams, we like the last 3 seasons, we're dead last. Like, we win 1 or 2 games for the whole season, and playoff comes and we just dominate. The always first place team that destroys the season. If we score 1, 2, 3 goals against them, they just give up, and that's exactly what the Ducks are doing. It's just they just go on cruise control, like, oh whatever, like we're still collecting a check. Let's not care. Like, I have no idea what's going on with this team. It's just it's puzzling, and especially with the Ducks and Kings. I went to a Kings bar because where I live, the only bar I usually go to with a decent crowd, they're all Kings fans, and they were telling me like, yeah, this game is just, it's not the same how it was the last few seasons. Like, this rivalry used to be, people would hate the Ducks, would hate the Kings, but they were just playing like they were playing basketball. Like, I don't know if LeBron James came to town and everyone just changed in California or what's going on, but I mean, something has to change. Something really drastically has to do. And we'll discuss that later on in the show, what that change needs to be. But I mean, I wasn't happy with this game, and I don't care if the Ducks would have won. I still wouldn't have been happy of what I saw from the Ducks playing this game.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was an uninspiring performance. I mean, that's all you can really say, unfortunately. But the Ducks then returned home, and they played Calgary the next night, and they ended up winning this game. And you had Calgary coming to town, who's first place in the Pacific. They do outshoot the Ducks in this game pretty bad, 39-24. But the Ducks, they actually, come out strong in this game. You have Silfverberg scores early. It was kind of funny because I actually ended up sitting right behind the Ducks goal for this game. Usually I sit really high, but a good friend of mine, Alex, had some extra tickets, so I ended up sitting in his seats. So I saw Silfverberg's goal right in front of my face, and I was cracking up because, it looked like Smith had stopped the puck, but then it squeezed between his arm and his body, and it ends up going in. So I'm like, all right, cool, that's a good start. And then, Uncle Rico comes in too, and he scores right after that a couple minutes later. So Ducks are looking better in this game. They're up 2-0. Of course, they give up a penalty, and Tkachuk scores at the end of the first period. And then, the game after that seemed kind of just back and forth. The second period, not a lot happening, a couple scoring chances here and there. And then the third period is when Calgary really tried to make a push, and they actually ended up scoring shorthanded, which was, just a bad breakdown by the Ducks. But fortunately for Anaheim, Getzlaf then comes around, scores 27 seconds right after that to regain the lead at 3-2. Big momentum shift right there. I felt like Calgary, if they would have kept playing right, after that 2-2 tie, they probably would have had a good chance to win this game. But the captain comes through, and the Ducks end up holding on to this one, and they win. Still wasn't the best performance, but they got a good start. Ryan Miller was in net this game, and the Ducks pulled it off. They played a little bit more physical in this one too, Eddie. And what they did in this game and the game against Minnesota, even though it didn't quite work out as well in Minnesota, they went back to those lines that we talked about. They went with the Raquel, Getzlaf, Eves. They kept the Cogliano, Kessler, and Silfverberg line together. And at least in the Calgary game, it seemed to work pretty good until the third period. It seemed like the Ducks, obviously playing back-to-back, they seemed a little bit tired. But, overall, they were able to pull this one out. I was happy that they, got the win in this one. It looked like the first two periods were pretty good. But, despite coming out a little flat in the third, they're able to, hang on and win.
I mean, but my analysis of this game, I really can't comment that much because I didn't watch this game, and I still haven't caught up yet. I had a beer league game, a playoff game. So, I really can't. I was just listening to Dan Wood over there on the radio, and if you guys don't listen to AM, 8:30, Dan Wood and Steve Carroll are really great. They're awesome. They have Ducks cues. I suggest you listen to them. But from what I heard, I mean, the Ducks they had that little bit of fight, and Getzlaf, led by example. And once they scored an assist, instead of putting their tail between their legs, Getzlaf's like, no, I'm going to get it back, and he did. Raquel and of course Fowler, he's catching fire, now with his 3 goals, and he had the assist on that goal too. So I mean, I was glad to see that fire and that spunk. I mean, especially bouncing back from the loss from LA, because that was a bad loss for them and the way they've been playing. So it was good to see that. That beer league game I had though, Mike, I talked to you about this too. Man, we had, I want to say, 6 fights in that game, including a line brawl at the end. Holy crap! Like it's sad to say this, but my beer league game had more fights in one game than the Ducks had the whole season, and we're just beer league. I mean, yeah, granted, this league I play in is the highest division I play in right now, and yeah, I'm not, I'm probably like the second to worst player on the team, but I just give it my all. But I mean, our team, we're hitting people, we were getting hit back. I mean, I have probably a loose eardrum if that's possible, me getting checked into the glass so hard. I felt like a real hockey player playing that game, especially at the end with the full line brawl. It was just crazy. But I wish I can see that from our Ducks team. And, I said it on a previous show before, like, where's that dirty Ducks? It just seems like we're just being, gentlemen Ducks, or not gentlemen, because that's a good word, but I mean, we're like walking on eggshells and trying not to crack them this season. It's just crazy. With the Kings game, with the Blue Jackets, and in Calgary, it's just, yeah, we won that, and I love the fight in that, but there's no really fight after that,
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think, they got Manson back in this game, which was good. And, obviously they had missed him on the blue line. So it was helpful to have him out there. And he's given it his all. He's doing his hits and whatnot. And he also played in the game against Minnesota. And, these 2 games, it looked like Eves and Getzlaf were really flying and hitting people. But, I mean, those aren't necessarily the people that need to be doing all that, and you saw in that game against Minnesota, it kind of left the week on a sour note. The Ducks got outshot in that game 43-21. But the same kind of thing happened that we talked about. They got down early. Greenway scored on a goal that it looked like Gibson blocked it, but he didn't. And then you had Zucker and Granlund basically just completely raping the Ducks defense, for lack of a better word. I'm sorry, but they did. They both got behind the net. They passed to each other and they scored similar goals back to back. And the Ducks are down 3-0. And then you know that this game's pretty much over at that point. I mean, the good thing was Aberg did score on the power play, and he's now tied for the team lead with 5 goals. But other than that, the Ducks, this game I thought against Minnesota is probably one of the worst ones that I've seen in the season. And there's no excuse. I mean, they kept those 2 top lines together like we talked about. They didn't play terrible. They played all right. But the bottom 6 played terrible, and the defense played terrible in this game. And it was really frustrating. I mean, you see your former coach, Boudreau, which a lot of people were glad he was gone, or maybe some of you still want him back. There's a lot of mixed emotions still regarding him. But I think right now some people would probably choose Bruce over Randy, especially the way this last game went, Eddie. This game was the worst game of the week by far, in my opinion.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. I might be inebriated from last night still, but I'm really confused about you talking about a game from last night, because from what I've seen, I didn't see the Ducks play last night. I just saw them get walked over by a Minnesota team, which I personally hate more than the Kings. I don't know what the hell was going on last night. And if I was allowed to use the F word, I would explicitly use that.
We have before.
Well, I would use it in like about 12 different variations to describe last night's game. It was disgusting. I'll just put it that way. The Ducks didn't show up. I felt like I was just watching the Wild. This game last night seemed like I was, just drinking on a Friday night, playing NHL 19. And I passed that level of intoxication where, like, I'm playing on rookie level and I'm getting scored on like 6 times. Like, the Ducks just did not come to this game. Like, I don't know if they're trying to make a stance on they're not listening to their coaching staff. I mean, I don't know if we should mic the Ducks up and they have an Uber ride. I have no idea. And we'll discuss that later. But I mean, this game last night, I really wanted the Ducks to win because I hate Minnesota, but they just didn't come to play. And Minnesota played the Kings last night too. They were tired, but the Ducks just, I don't know, Mike, what the hell is going on? I'm about to watch basketball. If a few more games, I'm about to transition to basketball. Who's a top team in basketball? I'm about to be a bandwagon on that team.
Yeah, it was frustrating. This game, like you said, they played the Kings the night before, and they had Stalock in net for this game, the backup goalie, who's not that great. And we've seen that before with other teams playing backup goalies against the Ducks. And you and I
New York.
Yeah, we talked about that. Columbus did too. And we talked about this on the show last week that, hey, if you're playing another team, whether they played the night before or not, and they're putting in their backup goalie and then they're putting in their star goalie against the other team, I'm sorry. I take that as, we could just put in this goalie. The Ducks aren't playing well. We could just beat him with our number 2 guy. I take that as a personal insult, and I would use that as motivation to want to burn that other team's goalie even more. And it didn't happen last night. I mean, the Ducks did do a lot of hitting. That was good. There actually was a fight in the game, which I was shocked. You saw Luke Shin go with Foligno. They went at it, which there's some history there. They've had a couple fights before in the past, which I was glad to see that. I did see some of the physical game pick up, which I was happy about. But overall, it still was a poor performance. They weren't connecting the passes again. They weren't keeping the forecheck going. And, you're playing your former coach. They played the night before, and they're playing their backup goalie. I don't know how much more motivation you need against this team to want to beat them. And I just didn't see it. Like I said, I think that first goal really deflated the Ducks right off the bat. Like I said, they did play more physical in this game, which was good. But in terms of everything else, it just didn't work out. They weren't getting the pressure with the puck. They weren't winning the faceoffs. They got outshot really badly in the beginning. It was 19 shots they gave up in the first period. I just felt like Minnesota came out and I felt like they were the rested team that took it to the Ducks. And I don't know, Eddie. It's a frustrating thing. I mean, at least the Ducks won a couple games this week. They ended the losing streak. So, I mean, not all is terrible, but yeah, I mean, they're still not, going in the right direction. They maybe halted it a little bit by, of course, winning some of these games. But the biggest news I would say that really what this week that caused the whole stir was Coach Quenneville getting released from Chicago, Eddie, because once that happened, everybody went in a fury. That happened in the middle of the week. And of course, all this stuff's going on with the Ducks and everybody going nuts. And I had a bazillion people asking me about what do I think? Should they pick him up? With the way that the Ducks are doing and what's going on. And I mean, would I like him to be the coach of the Ducks? I don't think anybody's going to say no to that. But let's be real. The chance of him coming to Anaheim, I just don't see it happening. And I think this is where we get into the issues with the Ducks, not just with the lines and the chemistry and the things that we've been talking about. But the problem here is, one, the Samuelis aren't going to spend that kind of money to bring Coach Q to the team. Let's just be real. That's not going to happen. So the owners aren't going anywhere. So we know that. But the other part of this equation, I think, that we need to focus on, Eddie, is a lot of people are mad about Randy Carlyle and what's going on with the team and how their performance has been. And rightly so. You and I don't disagree on that, and I don't think anybody does. But the other part of this is Bob Murray. A lot of people I don't see talking about Bob Murray as much. And I think the issue is if say we wanted to get another coach, Murray would have to let go of Carlyle. And if he does that, then it looks like he's a failure. So I don't know what you think about that, but I just don't really see a new coach coming because if Murray does that, it's going to be, egg on his face. I just don't see it happening.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Robert at GT350RK was mentioning that too. If Brian, Murray fires Randy Carlyle, it kind of be like admitting he was a failure to begin with, bringing him back, and hence why he won't fire him. And I think that's probably like the number one reason why he's hanging on to it, because that stubborn level. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, the Ducks are struggling and they're drowning, and we shouldn't be. The team we have, regardless of injuries, we still have a great team. When our rookies are ready to play and they have so much potential, but they're not being utilized in a way that they can benefit the team. And it's just it's puzzling, and I think it's time to go. And I've said this 1, 2, 3, 4 shows already. I don't believe in bringing back a person you fired. I mean, you fired them for a reason, and eventually you're going to get the same bullshit that you fired them for. I mean, man, I'm not going to go and call my ex-girlfriend from 10 years ago, be like, hey, let's rekindle the fire. And then, 10 years later, or 5 years later, like, hey, well, let's break up because the same reason why I broke up with you. I mean, it makes zero sense. K-Rock Chip, she said it the best when she tweeted me saying, quote, "That's my guest. You talk a big game about demanding change, yet you keep a guy who is 100% known for not changing." That hits the nail in the coffin. Carlisle is not going to change. Yeah, he might change here and there, but when things, when push comes to shove, he's going to resort back to his original plan, original training, and it shows. This dump and chase, this predictable system the Ducks are doing, it's not working out for the Ducks. Like I said before, I never wish anyone to be fired and lose their job, but a person like Carlisle, I mean, he's not really going to lose anything from being fired. He'll get another gig, or he'll be an analyst, or there's more opportunities for him. But I mean, it's time to cut cues and let's let's move in a different direction and let's do the best for the team, because that logo on the front is more important than any person's name on the coaching staff, any person's name on the back of that jersey, just like Coach Herb Brooks said in that 1980s team. So let's do something and make change.
No, I mean, that's another question, that George asked too, is everybody calling for Carlisle's head, but, should Bob Murray be concerned? And I would say, I all of us out there, like I said, I think a lot of people are focusing on Carlisle. I think he should be concerned with the way that this team is doing. I think that they finally got some of the lines put together. Like we said, they put the Getzlaf and Kessler line together. I think, if I'm right, that's the first time the top six, has been the same 2 games back to back. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but we talked about how the lines are always changing and everything's out of whack. But they did do that for 2 games, worked good in one and not so well in the other. But other than that, they're not really figuring things out. And I don't see Carlisle going unless Murray goes. So that's kind of where we're stuck. And it sucks, but I think we're kind of in a holding pattern. I think unless the Ducks go on another big losing streak, I don't think Carlyle's going anywhere, and I don't think Murray's going anywhere. But I definitely think Carlyle should be gone, like everyone else is saying. And Murray, maybe it's time to do something different, because what's going on right now with the team isn't working. The only other thing that they could really try and do is work out some kind of a trade possibly and try to bring in somebody if they want. They still have Perry. He's on the long-term injury reserve, so they still have extra cap money if they wanted to try to do that. It is a tough thing depending on who they would trade if they were to send somebody somewhere, because when Perry comes back, obviously that money gets reapplied to the cap, and then you'd have to move somebody. So I've seen some people out there talking about trades and whatnot, and I'm all for it. But just remember that if the Ducks do some kind of trade, that when Perry comes back, something has to be done, because they don't want to go over that cap. So they're kind of in a tough spot with him being out at least for another couple months, as we know. The Ducks did get back Nick Ritchie in the game against Minnesota, so that was one good thing. They're still down a few other players. Holzer's still on the IR as well. Roney's still on the IR. Kassé is still on the IR with concussion issues. I know a lot of you have been asking me about that. There is no real update. Obviously, he's been skating with the team is the only update from the last couple of days, which is a good sign. But concussions are nasty. They can affect you for a couple hours. They can affect you for days or weeks. So he's still been out, but we're hoping that he's going to come back. And it looks like Comtois is about ready to come off the IR. Just got a note that he's looks like he's going to be on a conditioning loan in San Diego. So that looks like he's getting ready to come back. So that's a good sign. They do need him back. But even with all this stuff going on, for me, there's no way Carlyle goes anywhere unless two things happen, Eddie. It's either one, the Ducks go on a major losing streak again, or the Samuels decide to pull the plug on Bob Murray, which I don't know if they'll ever do that.
Yeah, and that's frustrating. Murray, oh man, it's frustrating. He's been our GM for a while, but just like I told you in the offseason and last trade deadline, he doesn't seem like he has faith in the team. Like, I mean, I don't care if you go and try to get a big name player and fail, but just have the attempt to better the team. And it just didn't seem like he was doing that. It seemed like he was just content with the Ducks just being mediocre, and that's not right. A professional hockey team should not be mediocre. Every fan of every team that you cheer for, I don't care if it's the Buffalo Sabres or Hurricanes that have been in the bottom or Coyotes, you should have an expectation of being 82-0, which is not going to happen, but you should have the expectation. Murray just didn't do anything to better the Ducks that much. I mean, he signed some contracts at great prices, Raquel, Henrique, hence the name Bargain Bob, but I mean, he's not really doing anything to push us over that edge. I mean, this team should strive for the Stanley Cup every single season. I don't care if they have no one on their roster of significance, they should have the expectation. Like we're the Ducks, we're a SoCal team. Like, we're a good team with the Kings and the Ducks. Like SoCal is not a place to come and relax anymore. It's a competitive hockey world, but I mean, our GM just doesn't see it that way. It seems like. I mean, I've talked to him a few times and had a one-on-one with him when I was in Colorado, and it was really cool. Just, talk business with him and him telling me like, oh, you're not like all the other fans just saying the same thing. You actually know your hockey stuff. Yeah. I mean, this is my life. I just divulge in hockey stuff, but I mean, something has to change. And obviously our team hasn't been getting better. We've just been like keeping it mediocre. And I don't know about you, but when I'm on the freeway and I see everyone going 80 miles an hour, I'm not going to keep going 65. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I mean, that's what's going on, and it doesn't get any easier too. I mean, you've got the Ducks have a couple days off. They have Nashville coming to town for the military appreciation game, which we were giving away 2 tickets to. And actually, we can actually do it now. Ed, if you want to announce the winner, we if you didn't catch it, but we had a giveaway on our Facebook page for 2 tickets to someone that is a veteran. And we had a lot of submissions, and we appreciate all of them. And of course, we can't give it to every single person, but I come from a family of veterans, and Eddie is a veteran, so we're happy to give 2 tickets away. And we'll just do it right now, Eddie. If you want to at least announce who the winner is, and then thank everybody else for all your service.
Yeah, winner is a Rick LaBounty, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I apologize if I'm not, but you're a veteran, so I mean you don't really care if I pronounce it wrong. But I actually want to say thank you to all my brothers and sisters out there that are veterans. I'm a veteran myself. I was in the Army for 4.5 years. And I say half because they basic training. I don't really count that crap. But yeah, it's just we have a certain brother and sisterhood that no one will ever understand, and we've gone through things that we can like talk amongst ourselves and be, just be blunt when we see another veteran. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for you guys taking that chance and you guys signing up and serving our country. It's so amazing. And I mean, I love you guys just like you're my family, because you guys are. And what we did and continue to struggle with in life, in everyday life, it's something that no one can take away from us. So I thank you guys for that, and especially being a veteran. And congratulations to Rick for winning that. And your picture was really cute. I mean, I can't imagine being deployed and me having a kid and not seeing my kid because I was in deployment. It's just something, man, something I can't even like say, because I don't have a kid that I didn't see. Well, I don't really have kids, but I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm like, right now I'm stuttering, so I'm lost for words, but congratulations. I really hope you have a good time at the game, and I won't be at the game, but just I'm there in spirit, and I'm just like hugging you, bro. Like, that's just really cool. And to all my, brothers and sisters out there, I'm hugging you too as well.
Absolutely, and we're glad to help out and give a couple tickets away for that game. And like we said, it's going to be interesting. The Ducks are going to have to play Nashville this week, then they're going to have to play Vegas and Toronto, so it's not going to get a whole lot better. So the same stuff's been going on with this team that we talked about before. It's nothing really different. They're still struggling to get shots on net. They're still last in the league in that. They're second in shots against. We talked about that. They actually improved a little bit in their Corsi puck possession stat, but this isn't really saying much. They're now ahead of Ottawa, who Ottawa is having a lot of issues, and I guess they're having even more issues in Ottawa, Eddie. There's some other we talk about league news. You want to talk about, I guess, some kind of Uber ride, and somebody recorded something. Something's going on over there in Ottawa. Again, more drama.
Oh yes, Ottawa. This is one of the occasions. I said it numerous times in the off season. I'm saying it again. I usually say, no matter what happens to the Ducks or the Avs, because I watch them too, I always say, thank God I'm not a Kings fan. But I think everyone in the hockey world is saying, thank God I'm not an Ottawa fan. Apparently, the Ottawa Senators took an Uber ride after a game in Arizona. There we go. And they were slamming their coach, or assistant coach. They were slamming the organization. They were laughing about being last in a certain penalty kill or special teams play. And it was nonchalant. And some of those names, Weidman and Duchesne, which are kind of the rookies, or not rookies, I'm sorry. They were the veterans in that team. And Duchesne has a leadership role. And they were just nonchalant about being mediocre and being just that bad of a hockey team. Now, here's my thing about it. I understand that we all have jobs and none of us, are billionaires. If you are, that's cool. If you want to support me, hit me up on my social media, Argonzo444, but that's a different story. But I mean, yeah, the Uber driver, he effed up bad. He should not have done that. And I really hope that Uber fires him and never lets him drive in that capacity again. Because he was 100% wrong to do that. And I'm pretty sure he got paid money to post that. However, professional athlete, let that sink in. Professionalism comes first. And these athletes are celebrities, quote unquote. I mean, they should have the expectation of not having privacy, especially in someone else's car. People have been tweeting me and writing me on Facebook, oh, well, they have an expectation of privacy, blah, 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 in their car. It's not their car. It's his car. And there's no expectation of privacy in a vehicle, especially in Arizona and California. I mean, we all been in high school. We all had sex in a car before. If a cop comes up, guess what? We're in trouble for doing that because it's indecent exposure or some kind of crime. I mean, they should have exercised more professionalism in that aspect I mean, yeah, he was 100% wrong in my opinion, and I side with the players, 9 times out of 10. But in this case, I mean, he's just trying to get paid. I mean, he's driving an Uber. He's an older gentleman, and I don't know if you guys watched the video, but once they announced that they were Ottawa Senator professional hockey players, his eyes kind of lit up, and you saw that light bulb under his head or over his head. It's bad. You can't slam. Yeah, go ahead and slam your coach and your team behind closed doors. No one's gonna hear. I was in the Army, and let me tell you a story real quick. All of us were in the Army, and we didn't like our leadership, and we're sitting there talking shit. Just the whole like before official work call, we're just saying how our leadership sucks and blah blah blah. Well, we didn't know that our leadership was in the room. We thought it was empty. So we're sitting there just for 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever, just talking crap. The door opens and we all had that like deer in the headlights, oh shit moment. And our leaderships, they smoked the hell out of us. And if you guys don't know what that means, civilian wise, they took us out and we had to just do exercises, and it's not fun exercises. They do that until you throw up. The only reason why we didn't get an Article 15, which is like UCMJ punishable actions, which will take away our money and rank, because we had to we all lied and said that we were talking about a different leader, which we weren't. And we had to write something, we had to have punishment. But I mean, as a soldier in the Army, I should have, been more tactful and been more professional about that, and been aware of my surroundings, which these players should do as well. It's an unfortunate thing, and a shame on Uber if they don't fire that driver. But I mean, it is what it is now, and Ottawa is just that much lower. Like it's bad.
Yeah, I that news that was crazy to me. I mean, and I guess it just goes back to the thing that, hey, everywhere you go, there's somebody recording you or listening in or whatever. So you need to be careful. I mean, that's really the lesson there. Regardless if you think that the driver was wrong or whatnot, and the players, it's like, yeah, you're upset. You want to voice your opinion or whatnot, time and place, and that's what we do. We do it on this show. That's our time and place where we voice our stuff. So that's how we take it out, and how we feel. And, I guess the other thing I want to touch on with this team is, and maybe an unpopular decision on my part, or a thought on my stance on this, and people out there, we're talking about this team, and we're talking about puck possession numbers. The offense isn't doing this, the defense isn't doing that. Everybody's frustrated. You saw Gibson go grab Fehr, put him in a headlock in that Minnesota game when it was 4-1. So towards the end, he goes and does that. I don't know what Fehr said, and I know, Eddie, you've played goalie before. I have mixed feelings about what happened. I don't like it in the sense that he went after him and had kind of a Jonathan Quick moment. But I understand exactly why he did it. I mean, the way this season has gone and all these shots being piled up, averaging almost the worst in the league besides Ottawa. I get why he's frustrated. Plus, who knows what Fehr said? I don't know, but he was obviously talking crap because Gibson's just standing there. Then you see him look to his right like, really? So obviously something was said too. So there's that whole angle of it. But my whole thing, I think, after seeing, the Ducks have been through these games so far, the Ducks don't deserve John Gibson. They don't. Not right now. I honestly think that they should put Ryan Miller in net more often. And I know you're probably sitting there going, wait a sec, you're crazy. No, I'm not. I'm not saying put in Miller more games than Gibson. I'm not even saying 50%. I'm not even saying that at all. But after what happened in Minnesota and all that craziness, it's obvious that he's getting run around. And to me, if I'm a coach and I'm trying to send a message to the guys, I'd be like, look, you guys aren't bailing him out. I would put Miller in here and there. I'm not saying craziness and saying he's number one now, but I would give Gibson a break for a game or two, because I just feel like it's him against the rest of the team out there, Eddie. And you've played goalie, and you've seen that kind of frustration. I mean, I think he's still number one. He should be out there a lot of the time, but how long before he gets hurt, or more pissed off and does something? I mean, he didn't get called for a penalty on that play, which I was really shocked. But to me, I think he needs a break here and there, because this team they don't deserve him right now. They're not playing in front of him the way that they should be, and that's my 2 cents. You may think I'm crazy, but that's just how I feel. I just don't think that he should be out there getting slaughtered every game. And if the Ducks play a crappy game like that, hey, put Miller in for a game, give him a break. I mean, they have a couple days off, so he's probably going to roll again against Nashville. But in the future, I that's just my take. I would put in Miller a couple times, just give Gibson a break and tell the team, look, you guys need to start figuring this shit out. But that's just where I'm at. I was frustrated last night. I'm kind of still frustrated today. What do you think, Eddie, as far as, the goalie situation, that whole incident with Gibson and Fehr and everything?
I'm not surprised, and I can see it in the way he's been playing now and more aggressive he's been. He's pissed off, and he has a right to be. His team's not playing in front of him how they should be, and it's not right. I mean, as a goalie myself, I hate it when my team just kind of just half-asses things and they're just slacking. Like, no, I'm your last resort. I mean, yeah, I want to play to the best of my ability, and I want to stop 100% of the pucks that come my way. But when I'm getting, a 2-on-1 or that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chances on me at a time, I mean, it's gonna go in. Like, I'm not God. I can't stop everything. And I mean, I had an incident, my beer league game last Sunday, where I had my second roller hockey shutout. So I had my ice ones a few times, which ice is a lot easier to play goalie, but I had my roller shutout, and I was going on 27, 28 saves already. And one of the guys was really close to my net. I tried to push him away. I gloved the puck and held it, and he's whacking my glove hand 2-3 times. And my team's just standing there, just letting him do that. I got pissed. I ended up throat checking the guy with my stick, like, dude, get the hell off me. And I start yelling at my team, like, dude, if you guys aren't going to play for me, why the hell am I playing for you? And that's exactly what Gibson probably feels like. He just, I see it game in, game out. Players are coming in front of that net. Look at that Kings game. Dustin Brown, when he scored that goal, he was in front of the net, just asking Gibson if he wants to go to dinner and have a date or something. It just, I mean, freaking Dustin Brown swiping right all the time, and no one's doing anything. Lindholm is sitting there watching him. Like, come on, dude. Get in front of that goalie. Put pressure. Defend your goalie. Play that physical game. When someone comes in that net, kick their ass out of there, because they're not supposed to be there. And it seems like the only person that has that fire in the eye and that motivation and that fight in them is Gibson. And like I told you guys on numerous shows, I wasn't a Gibsons fan to start with. And I ragged on Gibson about his play. But you know what? I was wrong. And I'll happily admit that I was wrong. I think Gibson's one of the best goaltenders in the league. Actually, no, he is the best goaltender in the league right now. And if he had a better team in front of him, I mean, the stats and his name would be a number one in all categories.
I completely agree. I mean, he's still putting up outstanding numbers despite everything that's going on. And I mean, I feel for him. That's why when I talk about giving him a break here and there, it's not because he's not playing well at all. I'm just saying that, I would be pissed off too if I'm the goalie and my team's not coming to play. Games like that. I mean, it's just frustrating. That's why I'm afraid of the long-term consequences. We've played 18 games now. Gibson started in 14 of them. He's still got good numbers. Like we said, he's got a 2.59 goals against and a .928 save percentage. So he's still up there. He's got one shutout on the season. I like you said, those numbers would probably be even higher if the team was playing better in front of him. But it's frustrating. I just to see him, have to fish these pucks out of the net. What really made me mad in the Minnesota game was that sequence where Zucker and Granlund scored back-to-back the same type goals where they're sitting out behind the net, and they just scored the same way. I mean, it's just frustrating to me. So, I mean, maybe that's one thing that they can try and do. I doubt it. I mean, I think Carlyle's still going to ride Gibson all the way, but if this team keeps playing this way and we get down towards the end of the season, it's going to be a rough haul. So for me, I would try to give him a couple breaks here and there. Like I said, I'd still ride him as number one, but maybe throw Miller in the mix once in a while. So that's something to monitor too. So
yeah, we actually had a question from @Miss Low Nicole about especially the way the Ducks been playing, Mike. I'll let you answer it first before I interject. But do you think the Ducks are doomed for playoffs at this point, or what?
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting into too with the goalie situation. I think the same thing is if you're going to put in Gibson. Right now he's starting, almost 80% of the games, which, it's not terrible, but with the rate that all this stuff's going on, if he gets injured or burnt out towards the end of the season, then it's going to be, to me, it's going to be tough to try and make those playoffs. I rather he plays maybe, 60 to 70% of the games and Miller fills in a little bit more to save Gibson for later in the season. That's the way I look at it with this team. I still think this team can make the playoffs. I mean, they've gotten back a lot of the players that we talked about. They got the top two lines together, which we hope that they'll keep and get some consistency going. So I think that they can still make the playoffs. My fear is if they do, though, they're going to make it as one of the wild card teams, and then they're going to get bounced out in the first round again like they did last year. That's how it looks to me right now, Eddie.
I don't see it making playoffs right now, and it's sad because I had so much optimism started the season, and I have that mentality. Hey, Ducks are going to go 82-0, which is not going to happen, and we're going to make the playoffs. But what I'm seeing in the Ducks play right now, no, I don't know what's going on with them. And as of right now, and I'm talking about, and I'll also support them regardless. I'll still watch every game I can, but I don't see us making playoffs the way we're playing. We just have no fight and no will. And if we did make playoffs, if you can get out in 2 games, I think the Ducks would be eliminated in 2 games. Just the way they're playing, it's just not. It's not the hockey that all Ducks fans are used to, and it's not the game that we're supposed to play. There's no hard hitting and stuff like that. There's no urgency. It just everyone's watching everyone. They're chasing people and not playing positions, and they're not willing to adapt to variable change, and that's the biggest problem. The Ducks. Like they can't adapt, and I like I said, it's I know the coach has certain responsibilities and the players have certain responsibilities, but I mean your coach is your leader. I mean, think back if some of you guys played sports, especially hockey, of your coaches back in the day. I mean, you're not going to defy him and do something out of the box and just kind of like disrespect him like that. I mean, hockey players and all athletes have that certain respect for people, so they're not going to do that. But I mean, something has to change. I mean, look at LA. They fired their coach, and then boom. I mean, they're having, they beat the Ducks, and they had a pretty decent game against Minnesota. I was watching that game because I was actually cheering for the Kings because I hate Minnesota more than the Kings. But, yeah, I mean, something has to change. It has to be shaken up. Like either a coaching change, anything. Just, hey, you know what? You guys got your coach fired. And I've never got anyone fired or in trouble in leadership. So I don't know how that feels, but if I have, I'd feel pretty shitty. Like, oh my God, it's, I contributed to this. Like it was my fault. Like, let me do something different. But I mean, the Ducks are just, like I mentioned before, that Johnny Cash movie, Walk the Line. They're just doing the same exact thing, just like this. Something has to change, Mike. And we talked about this, off the show too. Like, when we went to the game last week, we talked about the same thing we're talking about right now. It's something has to give. And our team is way better than this.
I agree 100%. And I mean, everybody out there is already saying, everyone else you talk to and other people that have podcasts out there too and whatnot, everyone's saying, Carlyle needs to go. I mean, we all know that. But the problem is I think Murray has too much pride to get rid of him. That's why, unfortunately, I don't think unless the Ducks go on a big losing streak, he's going to be gone. Obviously, we all know that's the solution, at least part of it. He has to go. But right now the Ducks are sitting in the wild card spot, or I guess technically tied at 17 points in the Western Conference. Edmonton and Colorado do have a couple games in hand, so they're tied point wise, but they're sitting just outside because the Ducks have played a couple more games. So the thing is, they're still on that edge, which I'm thinking too, is that if they make the playoffs, they're barely going to make the playoffs. It's going to be a wild card team, and then they're going to get smoked in the playoffs, at least as of right now. But yeah, I mean, you gotta do something. We all know the coach needs to get changed. I don't think there's anybody out there that disagrees with that. I don't think I've seen hardly anybody saying that Carlyle should be staying, because that's been a big problem. Like I said, you've got some of the players back. You've got some of the lines put together, and there was no reason for the Ducks to play terrible in that Minnesota game. I mean, you had them playing the night before with their number one goalie against LA. They had their backup in. I mean, the Ducks should have taken it to Minnesota. You just beat Calgary. That was a game I thought, okay, this one's going to be all right. And then, after that first goal, they got deflated. And that's another big issue too with this team. The Ducks, in these 18 games, after 2 periods of play, they've only been ahead 4 times. So, 14 of these 18 games, they've been behind after the first 2 periods. That's not going to get it done. The Ducks got to start scoring earlier in the games. And those 4 games, by the way, that they've been ahead after the second period, they're undefeated. They've won all 4 of those games. So if they have a lead by the second period, there's a pretty good chance they're going to hold it and win it, obviously because of Gibson and net, as we talked about. So that's another issue. They're not getting off to good starts. They've had some, bad second periods too. We talked about that. We've seen that in previous seasons, and that's reared its ugly head this season too. There's been some of those middle frames, they've done terrible. So there's a lot of things they need to work on, and we've talked about it. And now you've got the players back. I mean, yeah, you're still missing a couple guys. Like we said, Comtois still out, and a few of the other guys, but I mean, they need to start turning around, and it's a broken record, but Carlyle needs to go. I don't really have anything else to add to it other than, we'll see what happens this week. We've got some tough games going on, but shifting gears a little bit, Eddie, I know there's some more league news you want to talk about. So what else is going on around the league that you want to talk about before we wrap up everything?
Yeah, well, obviously the Kings fired their coach and brought in an interim coach, so that's number one. We talked about the Ottawa players and the Uber incident. Lucic getting fined. I was not a fan of this. Yeah, I mean, I think he should have got a game misconduct for punching someone on the floor with his glove. But, I mean, this is hockey, and if you're going to take a liberty at a player and cross-check him in the lower back, I mean, you should be expecting that kind of, liberties being taken on you. One of the few things I want to talk about that are actually really happy and positive, number one, Brian Boyle, that fought and defeated cancer, scored a hat trick on Hockey Fights Cancer Night. I think that night I was a New Jersey Devils hardcore fan and Brian Boyle fan because he just said, you know what, fuck cancer, pretty much. Excuse my language, but I mean, when it comes to cancer, I don't play around, and I think that's the best way to describe my thoughts toward cancer, and I'm glad for him to get that, and his family. I'm pretty sure it was an emotional game for him, just scoring that hat trick. I mean, it wasn't given to him, obviously. I mean, no team gives up goals like that. For Ducks news, Dawn Wright, our national anthem singer with the beautiful voice, which almost brings me to tears every game I'm at, she's dealing with some vocal issues, and she's working with with someone to help her with that. So I wish her a speedy recovery, and I really can't wait to see her back again for that. And then I don't know if you guys caught the feature story that I wrote on DucksNPucks about Robin and Eric. If you guys didn't see that, a little synopsis of that is Eric posted a thing on Ducks Nation about, if there's a single woman that wants to, accompany him to a Ducks game. He was going through some adversity of his own, and he just wanted to get out of the house and just kind of hang out with a fellow Ducks fan, a female, of course, and just see, as a friend. He didn't expect anything of it. Well, they ended up getting married. And they found love and got married, so I think that was really cool. And it's good for them, and I wish them nothing but the happiness. We at DucksNPucks, we sent them to a game versus Columbus, and that's when Cam Fowler got their hat trick. So I think they're good luck. So I don't know, Mike. I think we had send them to a game again so we can get another good game like that. But I mean, with all the tragedy that happened this week with the fires and the shooting, I just that story would just I'm a negative person to start with, and then seeing all this negative stuff happen in the world, hearing their story really touched my heart, and it was just really cool to see and brought a smile to my face. And I was glad I had the opportunity to interview them and have a feature story on DucksNPucks. And I thank you too, Mike, for allowing me to take that story and run with it and post it as well.
No, and I thought it was, a great story that you did, Eddie. And I think, like you said, the timing of it was great as well. So much going on this week. We send all our sympathy to everybody that was affected from the shooting at Thousand Oaks. And then, of course, about the fires as well. It hit me on a personal note. One of my friends owns a ranch in Malibu, and he lost everything. He had a bunch of animals too. He saved some of his animals, but it's done. He lost everything. I actually found out during the game when they were playing against Minnesota. So I was really not in a good mood watching that game because of what was going on the ice, but also what was going on off the ice. And I had a chance to talk to him and offer him support and whatnot. And he said that he and his wife barely survived. They said that they had the fire department come and they got out of there. And only a few minutes later, his entire ranch went up, a ranch that had been there for 70 years. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. And I'm happy when we're able to do things to help other people. We're sending a couple to the veteran game, and you sent that couple to a Ducks game. We also donated money too. If you haven't, you can go to the Ventura County Community Foundation. It's actually vccf.org, and you can donate money to help them out as well. So that's one thing I guess I really like about doing this show and the podcasts and whatnot is maybe you don't necessarily agree with what I have to say or what Eddie has to say or the things that we do. Maybe, there's people out there that also, cover Ducks news as well. And there's people that, not necessarily always agree with the way that we do things. But the one thing that that you can count on from myself and Eddie and everybody else here is that, we try to give back to the community and help out as much as we can. And sometimes, things out there are bigger than the game of hockey. And yeah, we're upset about how the Ducks are not doing so well. And we want a new coach and we want them to do better. But, don't take for granted, just all the other things that we have out there. If you have a decent home and a decent family and the fact that we can go to these games and cheer and whatnot, it's been a crazy week. It's been a roller coaster on the ice. It's been a roller coaster off the ice. So I'm hoping that, most of those people can get their lives put back together. It's going to take some time. My friend told me it's going to take him probably about at least a year before he gets everything redone. So, it's just some things to think about. Just kind of put some things in perspective. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, but, there's just stuff going on out there in the world. We appreciate the support from everybody. We had a couple new Patreon people this week. We had Aaron and Kelly joined. So don't forget about that. We're still doing giveaways. We're going to give away some tickets to the Scott Niedermeyer game that's coming up. And we'll be doing some other stuff as well. We still have some watch parties that we're going to be working on. Scheduling's been kind of crazy lately, but we'll have those throughout the season too as well. So, we thank you for this.
Mike,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to just chime in and throw in. I mean, we all have money struggles and money problems. Me especially. I don't make a lot of money. I'm just a college student, and we're pretty much benefiting off my all my veteran stuff that I earned. I mean, even $1 can help. I mean, a dollar goes a long way. I mean, if everyone donated $1, if all Ducks fans donated $1, I mean, that can really help someone that lost, I mean, everything they worked hard for. So, I mean, I just want to throw that out there. And as far as I wanted to touch on too, we had some incidents going on with other Ducks pages. Anaheim Sports is a great Ducks page to follow. If you guys haven't followed them, try them. I mean, if you guys, disagree with us, that's fine. That's no problem. I mean, we all have that right. I mean, I want to thank everyone that listens to the show and follows Ducks and Pucks. You guys have a lot of different places to follow, but you guys choose to follow us. So thank you for that. And if you guys have an issue, let me know. Send me a DM and let's talk about it. And let's, we're on the same team. We all cheer for the same teams. I mean, it's not like we're trying to go head to head with a Ducks or a Kings page. I mean, if you really have an issue with us, send me a DM and we can talk it out. And if you want to just have a debate and have it streamed, and let's have a debate and let the fans decide. I mean, yeah, we're just fan pages, but you still have to have a special consideration and professionalism, especially that we're in the aspect of journalism kind of things that we're doing. And I mean, we're all professionals. I mean, Mike, I know you 100% give it your all, and you work 28 hours, 8 days a week, if that's possible. I mean, you work hard. I work hard. I do this thing day in and day out. I mean, I wake up the first morning and I check my phone to make sure there's no Ducks news coming out. Before I go to sleep, I check my phone. When I wake up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, I check my phone to make sure the Ducks didn't do anything, just so I can put that out there as well. I mean, we're all the same team, so we should just conduct ourselves as professionals, and we should be encouraging other places and promoting all each other, because I mean we're all Ducks. So I just want to throw that out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, this week, a lot of stuff going on. Like we were saying, there's some things bigger than hockey, but, being able to do this stuff, have a show and write articles and whatnot, and interact with people is fun. And, it's better to work together and promote the team you love together than, try to, make some kind of division between people. So that's the way I look at it. And, we enjoy the support from everybody. Like Eddie said, I'm available too. I get people that message me all the time talking about different things, and people that hit me up in between the intermissions out in the hallway talking about Ducks hockey. And even if you disagree, usually it's done, we do it in a respectful manner, and then it all works out good. So, and I appreciate that. So, like we said, it was see what happens with this team. They won a couple games this week. They broke the losing streak. But there's still more work to be done. So let's see what happens when they take on Nashville for Military Appreciation Night.
Oh, breaking news, Mike. Yes. I just have a breaking news thing on my phone. Nashville is actually wait, breaking news. Sorry, guys. It happened right now. Nashville's unveiling a new banner saying they're playing the Ducks on Monday. That's big news.
Are you sure?
Sorry,
I wonder what's going to be on that one. No, just kidding.
They're saying it's going to be the Nashville Predators are playing the Ducks, and apparently they're going to pay for all the parking on Monday. Holy crap, that's a great deal. Thank you, Nashville Predators fans.
I wonder if Johansson and Kessler are going to be out in the parking lot before the game. Maybe they'll be sparring at it or whatnot.
I'll pay money to see that. I would seriously. I'll pay money for the game and that.
Oh yeah, this is another game that we're talking about. Like we talked about the Kings this week and didn't quite happen. But if you're looking at a game for the Ducks to pick it up, I mean, hello Nashville. They don't like them. We don't like each other. So we'll see. Hopefully they can turn something around on that game. And hopefully get a winning streak going. So with that, we'll be back in a week. Let's go Ducks.